Hello and welcome to Random Offense. I am your host, Ethan Strauss. This is the place where we explore the intersection of sports, culture, sometimes politics, sometimes business. We've got a bombshell of a show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited to be joined by Ryan Glasspiegel of Front Office Sports, the preeminent sports media reporter. Oh my God, are we going to talk some NBA? Oh my God, what an NBA week. Oh my God, what a great first opening week of games, Ryan. Nothing but positive stories for the NBA, it would seem. Things are going
Um,
well, right?
Everything's great. We've been asking for them to take the regular season seriously
Mm-hmm.
for a long time through 3 nights of games. The national TV games, other than a game where like LeBron sat out, have been fantastic. But we're 5 for 6, pretty good batting average.
It's been fun to watch some of the programming that might have conflicts of interest, Ryan, because some of their coverage, it sounds exactly like what we're saying, where we just don't mention the giant elephant in the room. But of course, we are going to mention that elephant. We're going to explore the elephant, maybe two elephants, because there are two indictments. Here is a rundown I have of the big news rocking the NBA world. It's gone into the politics world. I think it led Ben Shapiro's show. I just was searching, seeing who was talking about what. Very surprised by that. Here is the exposition brought to you by Dr. Perplexity. Okay. The FBI announced two sweeping indictments on October 23rd, 2025, linking organized crime figures and NBA personnel to illegal gambling operations. One case, Operation Nothing But Bet, charged Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, former player Damon Jones, and others with insider sports betting using confidential player information to place millions in fraudulent wagers. The second, Operation Royal Flush, accused Portland Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups and 30 others, including members of New York's Bonanno and Gambino crime families, of running rigged high stakes poker games that used hacked shuffling machines, x-ray tables, and card reading contact lenses to defraud victims of over $7 million. The charges include wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, and illegal gambling, marking one of the largest sports corruption crackdowns in U.S. history. That's a good rundown right there. That's a good exposition. But you know what's even better? If we do have the elements, can somebody bring up the Sopranos clip that I added to the elements? Maybe this will inform people a little better, Ryan, as to what's happening over here.
T, don't get mad. It's been a little shit. I had nothing to do with it, just so you spit it out. Cash Patel got Chauncey.
He what?
And, Terry Rozier,
No, I don't know.
I don't know, he caught some friendly fire or something, and, he's gone.
Oh, fuck.
There you go. Need I say more, Ryan? Need I say more? This is the situation. I feel like I have to anchor the conversation in some respect. I have to say something about it before we start recklessly speculating. I'll say this. I wasn't kidding about what I said, even if we were laughing about how this was a great opening week for the NBA. There are reasons for why the NBA feels refreshed and renewed. And Ryan and I are going to get into those reasons. I think their new media alliances serve them well. The games were great, but this, Ryan, this is a mess. This is a goddamn mess. And while we're going to say allegedly with everything, and we can't just take the government's indictment as gospel, which do you think is worse? I think the Chauncey Billups,
Oh,
the Chauncey Billups. The
the
Chauncey
Billups thing
Billups
is
is worse.
definitely worse. First of all, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame player, an NBA champion, and an administrator as a coach. I think he's an adult. The like Terry Rozier, I don't know exactly how old he is. He's probably late 20s, but
Mm.
early 30s. But it's a little bit different with you treat the players differently than the coaches. And I mean, I think what Billups has done also seems to have had a much wider scope. And so I mean, I guess what do you want to get into first?
Okay, let's get into this. We're saying allegedly with everything here. Allegedly, 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 allegedly. as hard as that is to say 3 times fast. It would appear on the surface, if you read between the lines and look over the indictment, that there's a lot of reason to believe that Chauncey Billups was engaged in fixing games as a coach for the purposes of these unsavory actors betting on it. I feel as though if something like this had happened 10 years ago, when we were more rocked by scandal and when there weren't all these gambling companies involved in the leagues and the corporations covering the leagues, this would just be the biggest story of the year. And I wouldn't expect it to
Let's
go away
step
in a
back
week.
in case people don't know, because this actually didn't make as many headlines as the poker game and what Rozier did,
Yeah, it's
because
less
it
colorful.
kind of was like, it was described as a co-conspirator 8 in the indictment, and co-conspirator 8 was described as someone whose career basically has matched all of Chauncey Billups's. So it like let's just for even allegedly, like I think this is
It's
him.
Chauncey, by
And
the way. I know
so
that
what
much.
what
Yeah.
he's accused of in there is basically pulling the starters, like just load managing them in a game against the Bulls in 2023. And by the way, I think it was like the day before the Terry Rozier incident. So these two things happen on back-to-back days. And telling a gambler in advance that he was going to be sitting the starters, and then the gambler could then act on the information and bet on the Bulls before this is public. And so, yeah, what Ethan said, he is accused of fixing a game essentially. Now, here's why, another reason, like other than the fact that we become desensitized to gambling and desensitized to scandal, here's another reason why this isn't like the nuclear warhead what that you might have expected. We've been desensitized to the idea of NBA franchises deliberately throwing games for the purposes of like quote competition reasons of tanking to get a better draft pick. And so the fact that like this would kind of be normal in the day-to-day NBA business, like, okay, we're the Blazers, we want to be get more ping pong balls or however they do it in the lottery. We're gonna sit Damian Lillard in this game late in the season and lose. That's been normal for a long time. And so that's something we've been pounding our fist on the table about, the tanking and the load managing, where teams that aren't out of it are keeping stars on the sidelines to try and like preserve them for the postseason or whatever. And so you have this double-edged sword where all these teams are not taking these regular season games seriously, yet they are being bet on in large numbers. But like just the fact that the NBA has been so laissez-faire about its actual competition for so many years has made us be like, oh yeah, of course they would do this. Like, why wouldn't they?
I feel horrible because that's such a great point by you, and why you're the preeminent sports media critic to correct your French pronunciation of, is it laissez-faire, laissez-faire? Now I don't know. Now I'm losing confidence in my ability to pronounce that term. That's a great point. The tanking is this anti-competitive phenomenon that provides cover for shady acting. Now I'll say this, because we can get into the colorful poker cheating. I didn't even know the mafia was still a force in American life. I'm shocked by all of it. When it came to game fixing, shaving points, I always thought about players, that the DeJounte Porter might do a thing like that. That was on my realm of possibilities. That was on my board. It never occurred to me that a coach might be involved in something like this. It never did, because I always
Think if it
assumed
was a coach, it would be someone who has made a lot less money than Chauncey Billups. Like so Mark Daigneault, great coach. Not accusing him of any type of anti-commitment, but he has not made a lot of money in his life.
the man can't afford a haircut. We can all see it. Brilliant coach.
Like, there's like different like kind of classes of these coaches. Like, yeah, Eric Spoelstra, now that he's won a lot, makes a lot of money, but like there's a pretty wide range. I mean, some of these guys might make low seven figures, right? And so, like someone who is like, or even an assistant coach who's privy to this knowledge, there's lots of those people on the end of the bench who could supply this information to gamblers, and we'd be a lot more kind of or less awed by it. But the fact that
No.
it's like Chauncey Billups, who made $100 million as a player, is making $5 million a year as a coach, can get endorsement deals. I mean, this is a guy who should not be in need of whatever like you can get from fixing one NBA game, right? Like that,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like you could, unless you're like, and we don't know. Now we're getting into the reckless speculation game
Oh,
of
I
like,
got more.
why would he do it? Like, you would have to think for someone to do this that he would have to be in like substantial debt to people to even do something so like just reckless and dumb.
Indeed. It's something I couldn't have predicted. And I should add that if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand. We can admit you to ask a question. It's mind blowing now, but it's a mess of an indictment on multiple fronts. The Terry Rozier one, I'm seeing reporters out of Miami saying that the Miami Heat have cause to be angry about it because they would have wanted Rozier's hefty contract to have perhaps been voided on the basis of this activity. And there's some feeling that the NBA was not forthcoming about what was happening and what was
And
being
we're seeing like
discovered.
conflicting messages, like where like Brian Windhorst, who I think you and I both regard as
Incredible.
the ultimate like beacon of like sifting through fact from fiction in this swamp of that is this like professional sports league is they're all swamps, just like this
Yeah.
specific swamp. He's great at kind of wading through and like, galoshes and coming out with the information in its pure form. And so he said on the Rich Eisen show essentially yesterday that the NBA caught this the night it happened and shadow ban. I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said they caught it the night that it happened and shadow banned him for the rest of the year. Now, apparently that's been like walked back somewhat this morning. That's what I was like told, but I haven't seen a clip of him walking it back. I just saw, the first one is going to spread a lot more than after he gets called into the principal's office and clarifies it. And so, yeah, he said that. And so then at that offseason, the Heat traded for Rozier. Is that like the timeline?
I mean, my head is a jumble. That does sound like what happened, but I'm just trying to keep track of it all. By the way, I don't think they're going to get much sympathy. Terry Rozier, kind of a crazy, inefficient player, Scary Terry. The idea that I don't know. I just feel like
They
nobody.
would have like I don't you know more about the things of these like trades than I do. So yeah, but we actually haven't said what he's accused of yet, in case anybody is somehow watching this and doesn't know. So what
He's accused of the classic Jonte Porter of I take the under, or somebody who knows me takes the under. And in the indictment, it's to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars that were bet on it, I believe.
So
And
Mays
then
is saying he was traded midway through the following season in early 2024. The incident in question happened in 2023. Sports books all over the country noticed that there were irregular betting patterns on Rozier. I think the indictment says that like $200,000 were bet on his unders. That's a lot. I mean, look, so the way that there's going to be a lot of asides in this, but like the way that a lot of like the sports betting book works is the point spread, the money line, the game over under total. Those are like quote liquid markets where there's a lot of betting on each side and they're pretty efficient markets. They give you higher limits on those. Player props are, used in parlays. Like if somebody makes a $1,000 bet on a point spread, it may not like trigger any type of control mechanism at a sports book. And if someone bets $1,000 on Terry Rozier under assists, that's something that they're gonna like. It's gonna trip an alarm bell, and they're gonna look at it. And so, all these books that night noticed that a lot of people were just hammering Rozier unders, and then 9 minutes into the game, he pulled himself out with like a dubious seeming injury. And so, the Heat are upset that they traded for him the following season, and it wasn't like disclosed to them that he was under this scrutiny for what he's accused of doing, basically.
There's just so much. It's such a mess. This whole thing is such a mess. And can we show another element? I want to show this element because this is the element I think that is getting some buzz online, but not in official media. That is Chauncey Billups, when he does get indicted formally, what he is wearing. I want everybody to see this picture, just a photo. Now, if you don't have great vision, it says Clutch Sports Group. It is a Clutch Sports Group hoodie that Chauncey Billups is wearing. That is the sports group that was founded, I guess not formally, but informally, by LeBron James and his childhood friend, Rich Paul, one of the most powerful agencies in the NBA, not only representing players, but as you can see, representing a coach. And there's a lot of buzz behind the scenes about this. A lot of people in the league took notice of this and are talking about how some of the people who are either mentioned in the indictment or have connections and friendships with the indicted, friendships with Damon Jones.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to Damon Jones yet. We'll get to him too.
We haven't even gotten to Damon Jones yet.
We also have to get to what Billups is accused of in this poker stuff, which is wild. But,
how the hell?
I don't know how anybody like does like a TV show that's like produced about all of this stuff.
You need to have.
Luckily, we have
like one on the game fixing and then another on the crazy poker game that's using Chauncey Billups as a face to attract gamblers to swindle them in the illegal poker game. I've got nothing but questions about that as well, because all these people are coming out online and saying, I was swindled in this illegal poker game. And I'm going, you're comfortable just saying you participated in an illegal poker game? Like, what are the rules about that? I didn't know that you could be willy-nilly with that and talk about how you were robbed doing something illegal, but I digress. I get thrown off course. The clutch sports element, this is an interesting one. There's a lot of murmurs about the connections between players people are talking about behind the scenes and Andy Miller, who represents the coaches at Clutch and has, let's say, a checkered history in the NBA when it comes to the rule breaking. And this becoming more of a Clutch thing, that is something to watch. I want to play another element. I want to play the element. I don't think we can play all of it, but it made waves yesterday, Ryan, when Stephen A. Smith, the ever entertaining, and he got a lot of guff for what he said. And I think he was bombastic. I think he was talking off the cuff, but I don't think he's on the
necessarily wrong.
Yep. One mind. Okay, play it. Play Stephen A.
Many times, for one incident after another, have I said, Trump is coming. He's coming. I'm going to say it on national television again. Bad Bunny is performing at the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden you hearing ICE is going to be there, looking to engage in mass deportations. The Super Bowl, disrupting things. Big night for the NBA. Wembanyama put on a show. That has now been smeared because we're talking about this story, okay? Remember, Trump has a long, long history connected to the world of sports because he had those casinos. Where do you think folks were coming half the time? I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about the culture. When people want to go to a casino, when people want to gamble, when people want to party, or whatever the case may be. This was his kind of connection to that. Why am I glad you're here, Monica? Because don't be surprised that the WNBA is next on his list. Mm-hmm. Because when you've got all of these protests that have been going out there and people that have been protesting against him and what have you, this man is coming. He's coming. And I've been saying it for a long time. And to me, this is the latest nugget of evidence that we're talking about right here. That's not to question the legitimacy of the case. We don't know. We're all sitting up here and we're saying that we don't know. But anybody that has been around him, anybody that has talked to him, anybody that has seen his reactions from the sports leagues and the positions that people have taken, they are not surprised at what's going on today. I'm watching a press conference with the director of the FBI. Tell me when we've seen that. We've seen people, we've seen accusations before. We've seen athletes.
Okay, I'm getting hypnotized, but we have to do the show. Before. We have to kill the clip. It's hard though. I find myself in a rhythm. I just want to keep hearing about it. He got lambasted from both sides for that, Ryan. I saw Clay Travis went at him. I saw people on the left going at him for being irresponsible. And I'll play the next element right here. So quite the clip show we got going on. I saw Cash Patel, who Stephen A. Smith just invoked, Respond to it. So let's play that. I actually
down
haven't
the
seen this.
street.
I only read about it.
By the way, this was so wild. Stephen A. Smith, the sports commentator, suggested that this was revenge from the president for all the kind of left-wing activism of the NBA. Your response to that, 15 seconds.
I'm the FBI director. I decide which arrests to conduct and which not to conduct. That may be the single dumbest thing I've ever heard out of anyone in modern history, and I live most of my time in Washington, D.C. It's right up there with Adam Schiff. We arrest people for crimes.
Okay. I wouldn't say it's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I wouldn't say that. I would say this. I don't believe, if I had to guess, that this is made up. But I also think that if we would allow, Ryan, is it good to have friends in high places? Is that good? Is it good to have friends in high places?
Let me think about that for a second. Yes.
Do you think it was good for the NBA that Barack Obama loved the NBA and would walk into these games with Adam Silver? Do you think that was good for them beyond the optics? Do you think that was good?
Well, in the long run, I'm not so sure, but in the short run, when he was president, yes.
Okay. So I think that the inverse would clearly be true. I think, and I'm just speculating here as a hypothetical, let's say the FBI did know about some gambling scandal regarding the MMA run by Dana White, close Trump ally. Do you think that Kash Patel would be going full bore on it? Do you think that he would be at a press
And they have
conference?
those, but there are all sorts of stories out of MMA where like people knew some guy was injured and the fight goes off anyway. Like, so you hear about those just like you hear about them in tennis and you hear about them. There's all sorts of like the idea that like matches can be fixed has not just been in NBA circles over the last several years. You bet enough on sports, you hear about more than just one sport that those type of whispers are going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, to your point, I don't know if it was necessarily like revenge porn or whatever, but I don't even know if I used that word right.
I don't know. Let's roll with it.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative. The I don't know if it was like revenge against the NBA explicitly per se. Although if this does, if this winds up working its way up to LeBron in some way, then I think you're gonna have to really say that Stephen A might be onto something. But I certainly don't think that the league's leftist politics, at the very least since 2020, and arguably since whenever they removed the All-Star game from North Carolina, I think that was like the line of demarcation, and maybe even back to the Heat wearing the "I Can't Breathe" sweatshirts with Trayvon Martin. So it maybe has been 15 years, but it's been a while where they've had really been like the left-wing politically associated league, and I don't think that it helped break a tie.
Yes. And I also think that we're in agreement that the NBA is less like that than perhaps many conservatives would want them to be. I think a lot of people in conservative media grew accustomed to the NBA as this sort of archetypal foe, and the NBA backed away from a lot of the formal league-endorsed activism. Now, LeBron and Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr would say whatever they want to say. How could it possibly be prevented, or should? But I don't think the NBA was as all in. Now, point should be made that this investigation has been going on for some years, back before Trump got elected again. So that's something the FBI would say in its favor. I tend to look at it the way you look at it, where they're not stopping this from happening. They're not going to let the NBA know. And I have to say, rolling this all out opening week.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
Of it, opening week, and doing Rozier and Billups together when there's like a very tenuous connection between these two things is you could say, okay, well, Damon Jones is involved in both elements of it, but this is not, it feels like they took two webs that have like a very little sliver of interconnectivity on the proverbial Venn diagram and threw them both together for maximum exposure.
I mean, excuse my language, folks, but opening week feels a little like a fuck you. That's what it feels like from this administration, the FBI, Kash Patel towards the NBA. I do not think if there was any positive relationship between those forces, it would have gone down like this. Now, that's not to say they're making it up. And I also would say this, if I have to gamble on it, I would gamble against LeBron being involved because I assume that if they had some text messages, if LeBron had sent a text to Damon Jones about his availability, we didn't even mention that in the indictment, that there's a moment where LeBron misses a Laker game and Damon Jones, according to the indictment, it would seem, informs people of this. I believe that if LeBron had sent a text to Damon Jones, I think that that would be part of this, and this administration would have a lot of fun with that. But seeing as they didn't, I'm going to assume that it wasn't like that. I'm going to assume that there isn't evidence of that. But that's where this is getting a little bit close to the King's throne. Clutch Sports, Damon Jones close to LeBron. This is a little bit uncomfortable. And then if I'm going to recklessly speculate some more, I'll tell you the name I'm hearing a lot behind the scenes. And I want to emphasize, I have not heard any evidence at all that this person has done anything illegal. But what I'm hearing in NBA circles is, what's up with Ty Lue? He's Damon Jones' best friend. They are tighter than tight. He's the coach of the Clippers. What's up with Ty Lue? That's the other name that I'm hearing a lot of. LeBron James's former coach. We've got Aaron Reyes on the horn. Let's bring him up here. Get us off our speculation. Prevent me from getting sued. Edify as always. He's in his Dodger polo shirt. Oh yeah, the World Series is going on. I kind of forgot with all this stuff happening.
There we go.
Oh yes.
And then I actually am really representing the OG, which is Fernando. All the way to the finish. Yeah, you can't say anything bad about that. So there's a strange nexus with this whole thing, which is there's all these new NBC or NBCU or NBC Sports, Universal Prime and Disney Plus deals, which are, you could say, or some people would say, code to the left. I think that's maybe a stretch, but they do say that. And then you have NBA, WNBA, obviously, are defined as sort of woke leagues. And there's the larger thing hanging over, which is Bezos with the Washington Post. And the Post obviously has gotten sort of its teeth back, or at least some of them. And so it feels to me that there's like a nexus, that there's, Trump land has to construct conflict, right? Conflict is part of its currency to completely dominate the media landscape, suck all the oxygen out, and basically be it. And I think a collision like this does that, especially at the start of the season, and something that would last far more than the season, right? I mean, this whole thing, if this case doesn't fall apart, these cases tend to be RICO cases, right? So they go on for a hell of a long time, like a year or two, unless everyone pleads out.
I'm trying to figure out the thread though. Are you saying that WAPO has a role to aggressively prosecute this case in the media against the NBA? Is that what you're saying?
The Washington Post has been more aggressive towards Trump
exactly.
recently.
Okay,
exactly.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
And no, that's my fault. And so I think this is a let's say a key supporter, Kash Patel, looking to score points with the boss to say, hey, we can take on some of these pesky critters that you don't like to see. And Washington Post is definitely one of those. And I would also say Bezos is sort of indirectly, and then Disney, NBC for sure, because he defines that as, loser media and all that stuff. And so I do think there's some layers here between NBA, WNBA, those media platforms, Post, they're all represented sort of together as a nexus. And the NBA season as a kickoff represents a kind of a sweet, easy target. Because the NBA is, if you watch any of the games, they're far better produced than they've been for, decades. I mean, the production value.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
I mean, it was like, oh wow, and
Yeah,
I
we
read
still got to
about
do the
how they
poker
brought
stuff, and
all
we have
those.
to talk about how good the games were. But
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that too. And so you brought all those NFL production people over to the NBA side, and so clearly the NBA is going to get its bump. And if this can knock some of the wind out or clip the knees while that bump is happening, I mean that does play as a benefit. It also triggers another culture war, right? It really is, and especially the closer you get to the king, closer you get to some key figures here, then you really you hit the third rail. Because I do think if you try to drag LeBron into this or others like that, I mean, this thing goes this thing goes supernova, really.
Well, people are getting dragged into it, and we're gonna bounce Aaron away as we continue to try to smart stuff. Others are getting dragged into it right now.
Yeah, by the way, the World Series starts tonight. If that has been just totally wiped out of the news.
Baseball. Oh yeah. No, it's they're playing a team from Canada. Canada, the Dodgers. It's it's interesting stuff. Somebody shared in the chat, I think it was Ryan S, that there's reports Pablo Torres talking about, and people are talking about behind the scenes, that at these poker games, Kevin Garnett is involved in these poker games, not necessarily specifically the one in the indictment. We don't know, but that's another big name. That's somebody. I mean, this is all a nexus of guys.
Yeah, it's so like, yeah, a couple out. There was a poker outlet in Pablo Torre that said Garnett has played in the games. There's been no accusation that he knew that they were fixed, like it's been accused that Billups and Damon Jones knew.
Okay. Well, let's get Ryan S on. He's got his hand up. There's so much. God, there's so much here, man. We haven't even gotten to the production. Wait, we're doing quads? Oh no, we're going. Okay, we got Ryan. Ryan, what you got for us?
Yeah, thank you for calling out what I put in the chat. I'm so curious about how this, specifically with Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones in these games, in addition to, in theory, Damon outing LeBron's health status, how all of this in the background is affecting the personal dynamics between these individuals. I mean, Kevin Garnett now getting pulled in, seemingly he's one of the the targets. Essentially, he lost a bunch of money, and that's the first player we've heard about. I'm really curious about how this affects, one, Chauncey Billups' reputation with his close friends who are in the league.
I mean, it's
not good, Bob.
No, it's not. It depends on who knew what. Depends on when they knew it. It depends on what actually happened. And it's shocking. It's not in accordance to what I knew Chauncey Billups for. I know he had a charge against him, an accusation from very early on in his career that was controversial in Portland during Me Too, where they were trying to figure out whether they were going to hire him. But there wasn't this sort of shadiness surrounding him. It was shocking to me. It's why I've been making these phone calls, because it's just not lining up. And I mean, man, it's just so criminal, so predatory to be involved in the poker games, and then so destructive to your reputation and your professional standing if you're game fixing while the coach of a team. It's really unfathomable, and it's not something. I shouldn't say this. I should not say this, but if it had been Jason Kidd, I would have gone, yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
That's exactly who I was thinking about, quite frankly, is Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
It's just, it's unfathomable to me to walk a quote unquote friend into something that is, you're allowing this person's money.
If you're like a compulsive gambler, it's like being, we don't even know if he was, but if he was a compulsive gambler and if he was deep into debt to these unsavory figures, it does something to your brain like drugs or alcohol do. Like, I mean, you hear all these stories about people who are addicted to heroin robbing their families, and gambling is a similar type of addiction to that. It's a pathology, and if you it can break people and turn them into monsters.
We're doing the whole game of, we can't say this, we can't say that. I'll say this: Damon Jones is a compulsive card player. I know that much about him to know that much. Billups, not so
Gilbert
sure.
Arenas video came out yesterday where he was telling Shannon Sharp that him, LeBron, and Damon Jones always used to play cards together at LeBron's house, and Damon Jones was just like an inveterate loser. That
Yes.
wasn't Gilbert's word. That was my word.
When this is continued to be said about Damon Jones, that all he does is play cards just constantly. And you get in debt, you get involved with the wrong people, pressure is exerted. That's how you see a thing like this. We remember that the Terminator, whoever that actor was in The Sopranos, or he runs that sporting goods store and he has to let the mob in because it all falls apart. I mean, look, we go these guys.
An adult made a wager. He lost.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And or Tony Soprano's not having any sympathy for him, saying that if it was us who lost, then I'd be singing the blues. But here's the thing. We say these guys made a lot of money. It doesn't make sense. But all money is decisions. You can make a lot of money. You can wipe it all out with a few decisions. And then you're into the wrong people and you're compromising your values. And it can just go sideways. We're not, look, innocent until proven guilty. There's a lot of game left in all of this, but it would be very surprising if this was all erroneous and if there was nothing there. I would be shocked by it. And oh my God. And then again, it might not end here. It really might. I can't stress that enough. I don't want to say that some of the people, but all these guys are very connected to each other. There's no sense.
It's a big spider web. Like the NBA, you know, they always say there's only like some thousand amount of players who have ever played in the league. It's a much smaller fraternity than MLB and NFL, where the roster sizes are much bigger and they come and go with more frequency. And especially when you get to the people who have been in the NBA for a long time, they are like these are each other's associates. It's not like a normal like kind of 9 to 5 office job where you go home and like, you know, your work here, your rest of your life is here. They're on the road together. They have been they spend more time with each other than their families in many cases. And
Damon Jones, he's a popular guy. He's a popular guy. And it's why people are asking today. They're asking, again, not alleging any illegal activity, but they're wondering, Damon Jones, all over these indictments, best friends with the coach of the Clippers. People are asking questions. People are asking.
The Clippers haven't had any scandals, so it'd be shocking.
That is shocking. Yeah. They run a clean operation over there.
One other quick one. Did you hear Draymond's comments last night at his press conference?
Oh no, I stayed up and watched that game and went to sleep. I didn't see the press conference. What did he say?
So this morning I saw it. It was interesting. I didn't hear the question. But I think it was essentially around the NBA's partnerships with these gambling sites and ESPN and so on and so forth. And he was quite clear. He's like, this is not going away.
Yeah, I think he said, I know that you mentioned this, he said like this grows the pot, and I don't think anybody has been complaining about the pot growing. And like, yeah, that's the other thing I want to kind of get into as another aside. And we still do need to talk about the poker and the production. It's really, the poker is wild. But with like, I keep seeing people say, oh, we're going to have to ban player props now. I don't think so. Because like, first of all, the controls exist now. Like if they take away the player props, it's gonna be a lot harder to catch cheaters. Like if you're hammering Terry Rozier unders, you're asking to get discovered. But if like this stuff goes into spread and money line, it's a lot harder to detect irregularities.
Mays has the quote. I'm not gonna sit here and be
this
like
is Draymond.
Man, y'all partner with a gambling company. You open a can of worms. That can of worms can be open with partnering with gambling companies or not. I just think that's funny where people are saying effectively, look, we've opened the can of worms. Isn't that great branding for the league? Isn't that wonderful branding? That a can of worms, ladies and gentlemen, via FanDuel or DraftKings, however you want to have it. we'll take a question from Evan G. Thanks so much, Ryan. And then get to some of these broader, what is the future of gambling in sports type questions, because people are starting to wonder if this should just be banned. And then other people are saying there's no way, too lucrative. Pandora's box doesn't close. Evan, what you got for us?
So Ryan actually made the point that I was going to make in some way, which is that
Let's go.
while DraftKings and FanDuel exist, it actually makes it easier to track the irregularities because of their existence. So they, you can argue a million ways whether they're a benefit or detriment to society, but just in terms of being able to figure out an irregular bet, such as, a pitcher throwing a ball on ball one or that type of thing, which has happened to 2 pitchers have been snapped up so far. Those services provide indirectly an avenue to try and figure some of this stuff out. And Ethan, I understand the focus on allegedly, but this isn't the trial phase of a criminal event, right? That's when you're innocent until proven guilty. Not before, that's when you're innocent until proven guilty. That's when it matters. And I understand, I'm just being a little bit technical there, but to Aaron's point, because I always love Aaron's points because he's the man. I'm not sure that, Pete Rose is obviously much bigger to baseball than Chauncey Billups is to basketball. That's indisputable. But basketball, the NBA has done a horrific job of addressing their gambling. They still have Scotty Foster refereeing playoff games, much less any games, which is stunning given his relationship with Tim Donaghy.
Well, you wonder what he knows.
Yeah, you do. And you wonder what David Stern went down the ship with, right? And what David Stern had, there was all these suspicions about what David Stern did with the FBI to try.
Can we tape another MJ interview? I know they taped 2 hours, so we'll try to last several months, but I would like him reacting to this.
Oh my God.
The problem is he had the over on the number of hours that they were going to show. So no.
I will say this, based on what I know. This is just what I think. Again, don't want to get sued. I think Chauncey Billups match fixed while coaching the Blazers. It's just what I think. It's just what I think based on the information I've been presented.
So that's based on subbing players out, presumably, correct?
Yeah. That's what I think. And if that's the case, that feels like it'd be a massive scandal. I don't know.
Why didn't they lead with that? That is like so much bigger than what Rozier did.
But you guys have gone around.
Like Rozier fixed allegedly like minor props involving himself. Billups allegedly fixed whole contests.
Yes, just at least one.
There
was like several more like very dubious things like that came out. Like there was a Boston radio host who had bet Blazers +9 against the Celtics earlier this year, and the Blazers were down 8. They used their foul to give with 4 seconds left, and then fouled again to lose by 10.
Didn't we have the Mavericks throwing games in theory to get a better spot? Right. And even Cuban couldn't say with a straight face, no, we're really trying to win these games. It's really not, that's my issue.
That's what I was saying at the beginning.
No, I'm giving you credit for that.
Matches for a long time, with or without like the gambling element. The league is designed for them to fix matches the way
Ryan S says, although he hasn't been implicated on that side of accusations, as far as I saw, Billups is only mentioned on the poker side of indictments.
No, he has. He was mentioned as telling a gambler that he was sitting all the starters in a game against the Bulls in 2023. That was in the indictment. It just didn't name him. It named him
as co-conspirator 8, which would be a great name of the Netflix documentary about all of this.
He was absolutely implicated in that. Sorry, I don't.
And to what Evan G was saying, if they ever do something about the Emmanuel Clase scandal, it should be called Ball One. That should be the name of that on Netflix.
All right, we got to talk about the poker because we're running out of time.
Okay. Evan, brilliant stuff. You and Aaron, you are the Michael and Scotty in the picture behind you. We appreciate your edification and your guidance. Thanks so much. Okay. You want to talk crazy rig poker game, Ryan? What you got for me?
The Crazy Rig Poker and then the NBC production and then
Yes.
Happy Friday. The so the poker stuff, like the feds are accusing them of like using x-ray tables and um marking cards that you can only see with like infrared glasses and also like the funniest thing or craziest thing that came out of this was a video from 2 years ago of this poker pro basically saying like, yeah, I've heard these games that Chauncey Billups is in are rigged. Pro poker players go there and these like seemingly idiot guys who don't even like know the rules of poker are betting huge and then catching their draws, basically.
Yeah, I saw somebody saying, "Oh my God, that's why I didn't win anything at these games. I never want to hand to these games." And I saw games plural, and I thought, "How was there games plural? You went to one of these and you lost every hand, and you went
Well,
back."
that's what sometimes when you're gambling, you lose quickly and doesn't stop you from going back. I may or may not know that from personal experience.
God, I wish you'd been at one of these games, not because you would have lost money, but just for the. I
I
wish.
played in a small scale version of one of these where it's a home poker game and like obviously unregulated and they take a rake and I lost enough times in them that I didn't go back.
Evan G's raising his hand again. We might have to take eventually him back just in case he was at one of these games, because he did it right after we talked about this. I mean, I wish to God, you talk about fly on the wall. People tell you, oh, to be a fly on the wall, when JFK is debating the nuclear Cuban Missile Crisis, to be a fly on the wall. I want to be a fly on the wall at one of these rigged.
Well,
Chauncey
also,
Billups.
by the way, these games, the poker pro, I wish I knew his name, Maze, help me out. But he went on Pat McAfee's show today and he talked about how these home games have like quote extracurricular activities. So I think I will guess what he means. I think he means drugs and whores.
Oh, okay. Now you finally closed the loop.
Matt Berkey.
You made it make
yes,
sense.
these games do not just have rigged poker. In other cases, they also have drugs and whores.
Okay, now that made sense now. That was a mystery. Evan, is that what your contribution was going to be, or were you going to say something different?
Yeah, I'm kind of low on drugs and whores these days, but I would say that, and I actually, part of the way I paid for college was through playing poker.
Oh.
And then I just went cold turkey because it bored the crap out of me. But I play basketball with a group of guys. We're all around 60 years old, more or less. Everyone has had at some point some season ticket package. One guy used to pay up to $300,000 a year for his tickets to the Nets. And we've all given it up. We've all been distrustful of the NBA for the last, I'm going to say the last 3-4 years. We talk about games being fixed all the time. It's kind of like the zeitgeist as it relates to our view of the NBA. So when you express some kind of surprise, there's obviously surprise. I think more of the surprise to us is who's involved, just because whoever they name would be surprised on some level, rather than that it's going on, because we all just assume that it's going on. As it relates to the poker table,
They were not taking these regular season games seriously. Like even when they weren't load managing or tanking, they play at about 65% pace, and it's like watching an exhibition in a lot of cases. So,
yes,
like even if they're not fixing them for the purposes of gambling, a lot of these regular season NBA games over the last decade have just been unworthy of our time and attention.
basically tracks how they're treating their All-Star game, right? It is the whole thing. So we view the league as kind of a sham. Now, the playoffs, we assume are on the up and up, and the level of play is extraordinary. It really is incredible. Like with most playoff sports. I mean, these guys, when they really give a crap, they're just the most talented athletes on the planet. But their regular season is to say it's a sham, is not fair to the word sham.
Wow.
All right, thank you, Evan.
Powerful stuff from Evan. Let's have a purifying wind blow through the YouTube live. Let's cue up Patrick Ewing saying cue up. Let's get this element. Let's talk about the production. Let's talk about what we've seen from the games this week. Let's see if we can play that.
This is the NBA on NBC.
That's just, it just feels good, Ryan. It feels good. I liked what Bill Simmons said, that round ball rock, he felt it gotten overrated, but when you saw it finally, when NBC finally did it, and that intro they did to it, that Patrick Ewing was the tail end of, was beautifully done, as I wrote.
And then you've got like Mike Tirico doing the Marv Albert style monologue into the game. And it's like, oh my, and that's what we've been missing. Like we've been missing, and they do the player intros and the national anthem, and they are treating this like a big event.
Yeah. That's our drugs and whores. That right there, actually adding grandeur to the NBA experience. And you're right. It mattered that they had the song intro to the Oklahoma City Thunder players with their rings and Tirico narrating over it. And I know people are frustrated that Michael Jordan wasn't in studio and they're just giving us these little splices of interviews with Tirico. But oh my God, Jordan, just the charisma, a story about him making a free throw as a 62-year-old man in some rich guy's backyard had me riveted, Ryan, riveted. And I've heard a lot of grousing, a lot of carping from ESPN employees, and it is unfair, but there's just something about it. I mean, ESPN's doing a great job. They did a great job with getting Tim Legler, and of course, the Inside the NBA edition is arguably more important than NBC getting the rights. But did you feel what I felt, that you're more excited watching the NBC product versus the ESPN product?
Well, I'm more excited watching the NBA in general. I was more excited. I've watched it all 3 nights of the season so far. And I don't know if I'll probably watch it tonight, but it's the first night of Amazon, and so I'm interested to see how that goes. But I was obviously excited for NBC, and like they produce sports great. Like the Olympics, Sunday Night Football, etc. Like the cinematography of NBC's production. I don't know if it's because it dates back 100+ years of the network existing, and they've got all this technical know-how, but it just always seems like beautiful and crisp.
It does. It's real. I thought I was prepared to be the cynic. I was prepared to be the one that we've overrated this. It's not that great. They've lost their fastball. There's no Dick Ebersol walking through that door. But then I was wooed. I was swayed. Now,
yeah, and like you got the Jordan stuff. Like it's so funny. They tape 2 hours. God knows how long that's gonna last for. Probably like I don't know, maybe even until the playoffs. It's all gonna be from that one interview. I'm sure he'll do a couple more, but that they're teasing that he's about to rip load management next week.
Yes.
And yeah, he's just like he doesn't. It's weird because so this is gonna. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. Usually, you don't like to see like unhealthy looking people on TV. We don't see people who are sick or ailing or handicapped. He doesn't like look that healthy in his face and his eyes. But I'm still transfixed and like hearing what he has to say. And his aura is just so unbelievable that it transcends the idea that he doesn't like look like he's at full health.
Oh, I think the underrated aspect to Jordan, for all the glorification, great voice. Just something baritone about the voice. I think that's one of the reasons why Kobe Bryant perhaps.
And he shut up for the last 25 years or whatever. We haven't heard him say anything.
This is an argument that I had with
of the Hornets, Bobcats, or whatever. I don't remember any press conference or any time where he was like, other than the Last Dance, I haven't noticed a time where he's been like in front of the camera conducting an interview. So there's just like he's kept the people wanting more.
I had this argument with Samas Fendiari of the Light Years podcast, and he said that Jordan is the ultimate argument for less is more. And I said, I understand that, but I think he's a better argument for Michael Jordan really is that dude. Yes, there's an aspect to what you're saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder, but I think Derek Jeter is the argument for less is more. And since he was so scarce and he gave so little, people were more intrigued. Jordan's just Jordan. And you want to know more in part because there's something to his charisma, magnetism. And I loved that story he told was doubted by some people on the internet. And then we just
doubted it.
And then we just see the actual clip and nope, everything about the man's authentic. Sorry. It's just, he's not flawless. He's not flawless. He's got flaws. Those flaws have been spoken
of. He's not flawless, but he's also not a liar.
No, not a liar. Not
God,
a liar.
I really want to hear him do an hour on this NBA scandal so bad. What I would pay $5,000 for a pay-per-view of him talking about it.
Oh my God. They do not want that to get out there. That's part of the NBC product, though. I think it is a little bit more anodyne, a little bit more cheerleadery than what ESPN might have to offer. It's more celebration of sports.
Yeah, I mean, the studio show was that's where I'll ding NBC. I don't love their NFL studio show. And this one, it's like, can you think of one thing that like Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, or Carmelo even said? Like it's I don't. It was totally in one ear and out the other. They had nothing in those segments. But
this is what the ESPN people are complaining about. They're going, these former players who are a part of the broadcast aren't that great. None of you are talking about that. You're just hypnotized by the round ball rock and the pomp, the circumstance. And I'll freely admit to being that way. And I'll also give credit to ESPN. The Inside the NBA edition works. They were in rare form, which means maybe not rare form. They were in peak form.
Yeah.
Kenny, Chuck, Ernie, Shaq. I mean, it's just, you don't even notice, with apologies to TNT.
I'd be careful though, because last night, like the first night was great. Then last night they started mixing those ESPN people more in there. I'd keep them off to the side.
Yeah. Oh, some Barkley takes on this might be interesting. The last point to hit, I think, as we round the home stretch here. Wemby. Do you think that this is going to be a huge phenomenon, or do you think that there's this problem with it? And I'm referencing him going 40-15, hyper efficient, crushing the Dallas Mavericks, looking just surreal, like a creative player at that height, making moves like Steph Curry might make on the exterior.
It's like watching someone from NBA Jam, basically.
It's unbelievable. But are people going to be into that? Or do you think there's a nobody roots for Goliath? I saw our guy Spike Eskin saying, I'm not impressed. He's a foot taller than everybody. He should be scoring 70 points. I'm not that impressed. If I played some fourth graders, what would I look like? Do you think this is the Goliath? Like I mean, I wouldn't look that skillful. Do you think he's the Goliath?
If I was playing good fourth graders, they would beat me.
Really?
Yeah.
How many fourth graders? Are you talking about one-on-one?
One-on-one, a good fourth grader would beat me.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I have enough confidence in myself. Maybe if I don't know, Jamal Crawford as a fourth grade son, that kid would beat me. But I feel like typically I don't want to brag, but I think I can beat the best fourth grader at 90% of elementary schools. I'm just putting that out there.
All right. So Wemby, first of all, he has to stay healthy. And, it sucks that we have to say that. But between the fact that he's already had a major health concern and just the history of big men in the NBA and how they sustain their health or don't, you got to be worried about that. I don't know what percentage to put on it, but there's like a whole chance this becomes a very sad what if story. And
I think it's a higher percentage than people want to admit.
Everyone has it in the back of their head that this might end up being very sad. Then there's the fact that he's tall. Then there's the fact that he's foreign. And so, I got into this on Twitter a couple nights ago where I said, like, will people gravitate towards him? They don't gravitate towards former players. Hubs from Barstool is like, well, what about Giannis and Jokic? I'm like, I've never seen a kid wearing a Jokic jersey. Like, nobody outside of Milwaukee or Denver is wearing their jerseys as kids. Like, they are like, they're very nice. They're incredibly talented players. They've won championships, MVPs galore. I'll throw Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in there too, because he's not from the United States, and like, just it doesn't captivate people in a way that his game should. And
I know.
so,
Did you see the clip of Cat Williams, the comedian, for Anthony Edwards taking shots at Gilgeous-Alexander and his attire and just general or lack thereof? That's part of the Anthony Edwards shoe campaign, it would seem, which shocked me, scandalized me like an FBI indictment.
Anyways, so Wemby has a lot to overcome between the health, being un-American, not American,
un-American.
That was a slip. Not American, not un-American, and the size. But oh my God, watching him play is just a total revelation, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen.
It is unlike anything. Yeah, it doesn't look real. I can't even process it when I see it. And I'll be watching the Wemby games.
Yeah. So I mean, the answer to your question and mine about whether he can transcend the Goliathness and the foreignness, and we'll put the health on the side because that's not something that'll happen or it won't. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, but I do know that this was a very entertaining show, at least for me. Had a great time. I will plug some things before I allow you to plug some things on the dismount. I did an interview. If you like two-way people, you probably do if you're watching this. I did an interview with Mark Halperin, the two-way founder, on what the hell happened in media. I felt quite edified by the conversation. I would recommend it. Ryan, what should we be on the lookout for?
I'll give this away.
Okay.
I usually don't like to talk about my feature subjects, but from straight here, I'm going to interview Colin Cowherd. He is getting inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame next week, and I am going to ask him about his long and winding road.
Well, some people, they get inducted. Other people get indicted.
Good job by you.
Good job by you. Okay. Thank you. Show's over. See ya.